everyone. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about special interests and my experiences of special interests. I'm just going to provide in this video, a sort of little talk about my earliest interests, and then I'll move forward. This might take 2 videos, possibly even more than that, and I might have to do it for a couple of weeks, and then I'll move it forward, looking at my more recent interests, up until the present day. So just to provide a little bit of background then. So autistic people generally tend to develop very, very intense interests that kind of take up a lot of thinking time. These are subjects say that they might spend a lot of time thinking about, that take up a lot of time, that are very, very important to them and give their life a lot of meaning. When people think about autistic interests, the kind of stereotype is things that are what society thinks of as rather niche or kind of maybe a little bit geeky. So often, say, in the media, the interests portrayed are often very, very eccentric, such as, say, like being obsessed with car number plates, or it's the one that's often quoted, or I guess like maths, numbers, that sort of Rain Man kind of cliche. I don't know if any of you have seen the film Rain Man, but that's kind of often the main, the sort of basis of the main stereotype behind autism sort of stems from Rain Man. Being able to count at one glance how many matchsticks have landed on the floor and things like that, like sort of amazing kind of savant, kind of like almost like superpowers really. But that's just a stereotype. In actual fact, there are autistic people like that, it is true. So you might come across autistic people like that who are obsessed with maths, numbers, computers, and these like really geeky things. But that's by no means, that doesn't represent all autistic people, because we're all different. So you will meet autistic people who fulfil the stereotype, but you'll likewise meet many autistic people who don't. And it's important always to not assume anything, not assume, oh yeah, just because they're autistic, they're going to be like really interested in maths or numbers or patterns or things like that, because it's not always the case. In my case, I'm actually horrendously bad at maths to the point of having dyscalculia, and I'm really, really, my ability to understand patterns, abstract patterns, is really, really poor. And all of my interests have actually been quite kind of socially based, culturally based, and interests that I guess sort of non-autistic people get interested in as well. It's just that in my case, it's the intensity, the extent to which I get obsessed with things is extreme, and the extent to which they dominate my life, and the extent to which I give meaning to my life, and the extent to which I get really upset if I can't pursue these interests or something happens to them. Their importance to me is say a lot more extreme than say for a non-autistic person. That's the difference really, is the intensity as opposed to say the focus. And that apparently, I mean, that this will be a subject of another video, but this apparently one of the main differences they found, and when I say differences, again, you've got to remember that everyone's an individual, so this general difference that they found is just a kind of average. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to, because everyone's different, so yeah, you've got to remember that. But one of the kind of the sort of main differences they found between boys and girls with autism, men and women with autism, is that women with autism, generally speaking, and this is a very crude sort of, I'm speaking here in very crude terms because obviously there are exceptions, but generally speaking, women are more likely than men with autism to be interested in things that are kind of a bit more socially acceptable. It's just the intensity which sets the interest apart. So in my case, as I say, all my interests have been quite conventional, you could say, but it's the intensity. When I was a child, one of my earliest interests, and this has been a lifelong interest, it's never completely gone, it's been sort of more or less intense at different points in my life, but it's always been there. It's been a lifelong interest in food and just eating, and I absolutely love food. People sometimes think that when I tell them this, there can be a little bit of confusion when I say, they just think like because I'm obsessed with food, I'm eating all the time. It doesn't mean that at all. Certainly when I was a kid, if I had a moment, like, when adults were not moderating what I could eat and stuff, like say if I was at a party or what have you, I would go and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Not that these would be like kind of just occasional situations when I could get away with that, as most of the time my parents kind of heavily moderated my meal time, so I wouldn't have been able to eat and eat and eat and eat. Obviously, you get older, I've learned self-control, and actually now I'm very controlled, and my meals are very heavily structured and part of my routine, so no, I don't overeat. I eat sensibly, and I'm also very, very interested in nutrition, so I like to eat healthily as much as possible, but I eat, everything. I like a bit of cake, I'm just sensible. I think my interest in food is a sensible obsession. I just have a very healthy interest in food, and it's something that makes me very happy and helps me get through the day because, breakfast, lunch, dinner, a few snacks in between, things to look forward to. But as I was a child, this was a very, very extreme, intense obsession, and I would talk non-stop about food to my family in particular. They would constantly be bombarded with constantly be bombarded with me constantly talking about food and what are we going to have to eat today, and what we're going to have for dinner and all these sort of things. My mum kind of drove off a bit off the wall at times, I think. And the other thing, one of my little quirks as a child, was I used to memorise what every single kid in a whole class, bearing in mind this was about 30 children, I used to memorise what every single kid had to eat in their lunchbox at school. And then I would go to bed, instead of counting sheep, I'd go to bed thinking about what every single kid had to eat in their lunchbox at school. And I would also tell my parents what every single kid had to eat in their lunchbox at school. And my auntie, when we used to go on walks when I was a little girl, she used to hold my hand, and I would tell her the whole class, what they looked like, their birthday, and what they had to eat in their lunchbox at school. So to give an example, there was one little boy who called Aaron, who he always had tiny little squares of tiny little sandwich squares with a crust removed, always in white sliced bread with Marmite with the crust removed, wrapped in foil. He would have that a lot. So I love that. I love looking at what he was eating, and I don't know. I just found it really, really satisfying. And so that's one of the things I used to do. And I also my mum used to get me to write menus to try and teach me, sort of like, writing practice and things like that. I think she knew instinctively, got to tap into one of my special interests, kind of like help me to learn. So she instinctively sort of knew that. So I would enjoy writing pretend menus. We used to do that on Sundays, again, when we went to join my dad, because we used to go out walking on Sundays, and when we went to join my dad at a cafe, I'd then read out the menus to him, what I'd written, and I used to draw little pictures of food and stuff. And I remember getting really excited one time when I was about, 5, 6 years old. We were at a fete, and I picked up this board game, and I got so excited because it's basically a food game. I can't remember exactly what it was about now. All I can remember was that it basically had cut out bits of food. So, for example, you had cut out of cardboard. So you might have a cut out bit of beans, and it's all lifelike. It was obviously just like a photograph laminated onto a bit of cardboard, and then you sort of slotted it together, and you create different meals on a plate. And I got so excited. It's one of the best games ever, and I wanted to play it all the time. So this interest in food obviously goes back a really, really long way, and all my earliest memories are food based, like the time at nursery school when we ate chocolate cake and I got it all around my mouth, and then you had to wash your face from a bucket of water, and just things like that. I could go on and on and on about all the food related memories I have growing up, and it would take more than one video to tell you everything. I'll just say in this video that when I started school, like, one of the main excitements about starting school was that I had this lunchbox, my brand new lunchbox, and I got really excited. And also we had to bring a bit of fruit into school, and I brought a banana, and one of the highlights of the school day was at break time when you went over to your bag. That was held on a peg, and I could get my banana out of the front bit of the bag, and it just gets amazing, I get so excited just getting that banana out. Just something as simple as getting the banana out made me just so excited. It's like the highlight of the school day, and I would always look forward to lunchtime and get increasingly excited near lunchtime. That was the thing that kind of got me through the school day. yeah, this is going to obviously take up more than one video, so I just wanted to provide, and I'll probably come back to this in other video, so I just wanted, because I've got so many memories I could talk about, but I just wanted to use this video just to provide a very brief introduction to my interests. Okay, so thank you for listening.